The president of Italy came to see her. The president of Italy walked into the Foro Italico with a message and a reward that nobody saw coming. Sergio Mattarella, a man who has witnessed defining moments across 8 decades of history, World Cups, Olympic Games, the triumphs and heartbreaks of Italian athletes across every discipline, was present in Rome that afternoon for something entirely different. On this occasion, the 84-year-old head of state was not there to watch an Italian player. He was there to see Eala, the Filipino sensation, still recovering from the ankle injury that had ended her tournament run early, was seated in the royal box when the president made his way toward her. Cameras immediately tightened their focus. The stadium seemed to collectively hold its breath. And when Mattarella made his announcement, even the marble statues of ancient Roman athletes surrounding the arena felt as though they were leaning in to listen. Rome, Italy, May 10, 2026. The Foro Italico was at the heart of the Italian Open's most anticipated weekend. The semi-finals were underway, and the iconic venue, framed by its classical marble figures, was packed to capacity. The crowd formed a sea of Italian flags broken only by pockets of Belgian yellow and French blue, all of them buzzing with the anticipation of a historic afternoon. Tournament royalty filled the royal box. Former champions, federation officials, and dignitaries from across Europe gathered above the court, watching the proceedings with a composed detachment of people accustomed to great occasions. But the most distinguished guest had arrived that morning without any fanfare. Sergio Mattarella, the 84-year-old head of state of the Italian Republic, had accepted an invitation from Italy's Davis Cup and Billie Jean King Cup teams to attend the tournament. Only days earlier, he had met Italy's top players, including Jannik Sinner and other national stars, at the Quirinal Palace. During that meeting, he had been careful to manage expectations about his symbolic presence. "I don't want to be seen as some kind of talisman, because I'm not one at all," he had said. "But the quality of our tennis players, both women and men, allows us to look forward to the Italian Open with renewed and consolidated confidence." Now he sat in the front row of the royal box, flanked by security personnel and federation officials, watching the match with the quiet intensity of a man who has seen history from the inside. Then, during a changeover, something caught his attention. In the opposite section of the royal box, partially obscured by a marble pillar, sat a young woman with her left ankle wrapped in a compression bandage. She wasn't featured on any stadium screen. Her name wasn't being announced. But the flags around her told their own story. Red, white, and blue, distinctly not Italian. Philippine flags. Mattarella leaned slightly toward the nearest tournament official. "Who is that?" he asked. The official leaned closer. "That, Senior Presidente, is Eala. She is from the Philippines. She was forced to withdraw from the tournament after injuring her ankle." Mattarella nodded slowly. He had heard of her. In fact, the entire country had heard of her, not because she was Italian, but because her presence had transformed the atmosphere of the Foro Italico in a way that few visiting athletes ever had. Philippine flags had appeared across Rome in numbers rarely seen for a non-Italian player. The chant of her name echoed through the stands, rolling off the ancient marble and filling the stadium with an energy the venue was not accustomed to. A 20-year-old, far from home, had turned a foreign tournament into something that felt like a homecoming. "I would like to meet her," the president said quietly. Then, without further discussion, Sergio Mattarella rose from his seat. The royal box fell into a restrained silence as officials registered the movement. It was subtle at first, almost unremarkable, but in that environment, every gesture carried weight. Mattarella made no announcement. He waited for no ceremony. He simply walked, past the VIP seating, past federation officials, past the bronze busts of Italian sporting legends lining the corridor of the royal box, step by step toward the back section where a young woman sat partially hidden behind a marble pillar, her ankle bandaged, her eyes on the court below. Ella looked up. Her expression shifted the moment she registered who was approaching. Around the stadium, scattered Philippine flags seemed to stir with a new energy, as though the crowd had sensed the moment was changing before anyone had confirmed it. The chant that had defined her presence in Rome started again, softly at first, then building, rolling through the Foro Italico in slow, gathering waves. Mattarella stopped in front of her and extended his hand. "Signorina Eala," he said. "It is an honor to meet you." Still processing what was happening, she reached out and took it. "The honor is mine, Signor Presidente," she replied. The moment carried an unusual weight. Commentators struggled to continue their broadcast. The match on court continued in the background, but the attention of the entire stadium had quietly shifted away from the baseline and toward the royal box. "I have been watching you," Mattarella said calmly. "Not just today, but throughout this tournament. The way your people show up for you is remarkable. It is moving." He paused, his gaze steady. "Italy is proud to have hosted you. We hope you will return." Then, without warning, he made an announcement that no one in the stadium had anticipated. There was no prepared statement, no visible consultation with advisors. Just a measured voice speaking clearly in front of the cameras. "The Italian Republic recognizes exceptional contributions to sport, to culture, and to the bridge between nations," he said. "It is rare that a single athlete can embody all three." He turned slightly toward the broadcast cameras. The stadium, still vibrating with distant crowd noise, began to feel suspended. Even the commentators went silent. It was originally established in 1947 as the Order of the Star of Italian Solidarity, born in the aftermath of World War II to recognize those who helped rebuild a shattered nation and support its recovery. In 2011, under President Giorgio Napolitano, it was reformed and reframed for the modern era, no longer about post-war reconstruction, but about the promotion of Italy's cultural presence, international relationships, and global standing. In its current form, the award is conferred personally by the President of the Republic, following consultation with the Council of the Order. It recognizes foreign nationals who have made exceptional contributions to deepening the ties between Italy and other nations. That is why the moment carried the weight it did. Eala had not achieved this through diplomacy or politics. She had achieved it through something far more universal: sport. Through competition, resilience, and presence alone, she had become a bridge between cultures. Her matches had drawn some of the largest non-Italian crowds the Italian Open had seen in years, transforming sections of the Foro Italico into a rolling sea of Philippine flags and international energy. It was not simply popularity. It was visibility. It was connection. And in that sense, Mattarella's words reframed everything unfolding inside that stadium, not as a tennis story, but as something closer to cultural exchange happening in real time. Two nations, one moment within hours of the announcement. The story had traveled far beyond the Foro Italico. In the Philippines, it broke like a national event. Television networks interrupted regular programming. News tickers lit up across every major outlet carrying a single repeating headline: Eala receives Italy's highest civilian honor. On social media, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Messages of pride, disbelief, and emotion flooding timelines from one end of the archipelago to the other. For many, it had stopped being about sport entirely. It had become about identity, visibility, and recognition on a global stage. From Manila to Rome. One post read, "From a scholarship at the Rafa Nadal Academy to an honor from the President of Italy, she is proof that dreams have no borders." Eala had not won the tournament. She had not even completed it, her run cut short by injury in the third round. But in the eyes of countless supporters, something larger had happened. She had changed the atmosphere of Rome itself, and in doing so, had quietly reshaped how Italy saw the Philippines, even if only for a week. The Philippine embassy in Rome issued an official statement expressing deep gratitude for the recognition. The Department of Foreign Affairs in Manila followed with a formal message thanking President Mattarella and the Italian people for what it described as an extraordinary gesture of friendship between nations. Her mother's words back inside the Foro Italico. Cameras eventually found her family in the stands. Her mother, Riza, who had been seated beside her when the president approached, was asked how she felt. She paused for a long moment, still visibly overwhelmed. "I don't have words," she said quietly, tears still on her face. "I'm just a mother. I just wanted my daughter to be happy. I never imagined anything like this." Eala herself did not speak to the press immediately. She was still processing everything. The bracelet given to her by Roger Federer remained on her wrist, a quiet reminder of how far her journey had already carried her. The words Mattarella had spoken still moved through her mind in fragments she couldn't yet fully organize. Later that evening, she posted a single image on her Instagram story, a photograph of the Roman sky, taken from her hotel window. Beneath it, a simple caption: "I came to Rome to play tennis. I leave with something I never could have imagined. Grazie Italia. Mahal ko. Thank you, Italy. I love you." No press conference. No extended statement. Just that. What it was really about in the hours and days that followed, the meaning of what had happened began to settle across two nations and far beyond them. Mattarella had not awarded the Order of the Star of Italy because Eala had won the tournament. She hadn't. Her ankle, wrapped in compression bandage, had brought her campaign to a premature end. In purely sporting terms, her Italian Open had finished short of where she had hoped. But the award was never about the result sheet. It was about what she represented. She represented the possibility of connection across borders, across cultures, across languages. She represented sport not merely as competition, but as a shared human language capable of carrying emotion further than nationality ever could. She represented the Filipino diaspora, millions of people living and working far from home, often unseen, often unheard, but still carrying their identity with them wherever they go. In Rome, for a brief but unforgettable stretch of time, they were seen. The Philippine flags that filled the Foro Italico were not simply symbols of fandom. They were signals of presence. The chant of Eala rolled off marble statues of ancient athletes, collapsing centuries of history into a single modern moment. And somewhere in that convergence, the president of Italy took notice, not of a victory but of an impact. "Italy is proud to have hosted you," Mattarella had said. "We hope you will return." But the truth, as many came to understand afterward, ran deeper than those words. Italy was not only proud to have hosted her. It had been, in its own quiet way, changed by her. The Order of the Star of Italy, rare, formal, and deeply symbolic, was not a reward for winning matches. It was a recognition of something less measurable but far more enduring, the ability of one athlete to turn a tournament into a bridge between nations. No player in the history of the Italian Open, winner or loser, champion or journeyman, had ever made the kind of impact that Alex Eala made in a single week on the red clay of Rome. The question that remains: will she return to Rome next year as a competitor? Or will she return as something larger, something symbolic? A living bridge between two nations separated by more than 11,000 kilometers, yet momentarily united by the presence of a 20-year-old with a racket, a dream, and a following that transformed an entire stadium. The moment has already entered Italian Open history. Sergio Mattarella made a surprise appearance at the tournament, crossed the royal box without ceremony, and personally